Hi, my name's Johnny, and today, this might be the worst bass that we've reviewed. Today, we are checking out the Harley Benton TB-70 BS. Harley Benton equals Harley Benton, TB equals Thunderbird, 70 equals 70s, BS equals Vintage Sunburst. Harley Benton are of course Thoman's in-house brand, meaning that they can make super affordable versions of your classic basses, your Stingrays, your P basses, your jazz basses, so much more, including of course Gibson's classic Thunderbird. Now, I really like a Thunderbird. I think they are so cool. And whenever I hear some people playing them, I'm like, yes, it sounds great too. But the Thunderbird itself is just so flawed as a design that something that is trying to copy it kind of inherits all of that awfulness that comes in their heritage. And I'll dive into that a bit later on. Before we go anywhere, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, of course, for more content just like this in the future. Now, when I'm talking about everything in this review, it's worth mentioning that this bass, of course, costs £174 new. So this bass, why don't we just start from the very top? This is where the differences between a classic Thunderbird and this bass start. You'll see that the headstock is reversed, and normally, I think this is a really cool feature. On this bass, I don't. Now, I remember when these were first launched by Harley Benton, and they didn't always look like this. They had a normal headstock and a body shape that was more akin to the traditional Thunderbird. So, my prediction is that Harley Benton got in a little bit of legal trouble with Gibson. I don't know that, but that would be my guess, knowing Gibson's kind of background and how strict they are with other people copying their models. Now, of course, Thunderbirds are prone to neck dive, and this bass is no exception. The neck dive is so bad on this bass, it's so bad, it's horrible. I don't think that the headstock helps. Having more weight of those machine heads on this side, I think just further adds to that. And yeah, it's not great. It doesn't help as well that the tuners are a bit for this video, for changing cameras, you know, I put the bass on the floor and I'd be having to tune it every time because you lay it on the floor, the machine heads go, and yeah, it's not a great design, and it doesn't help with the ergonomics of the bass. The fret job on this is actually really nice. I've had Fenders that are worse than this, honestly. The neck is a gloss finish on the back. I think it would have been really good if this was like a satin or almost unfinished, just because that would be one more thing to help you get around this bass, because my god, it just feels like it goes on forever. Like you're having to reach like this to play. I think these basses are made for standing up and having your strap really low to be able to kind of bring the neck up naturally, because otherwise it's very cumbersome. This gets in the way, this gets in the way. You know, the design just doesn't help with playability. The neck is a D shape, so it's very rounded in your hands. Not too wide, and the nut feels like a 38mm nut. It is a 38mm nut. Now, I don't really like the fretboard. It seems a bit cheap. Harley Benton's website lists it as black wood. It looks like a cheap ebony, which I'm guessing is what they're going for, but it kind of looks a little bit faded in some lights, and it looks good here. but in person, yeah, I don't know, it just looks a bit cheap. You can see we have got this set Okume neck with the two wings attached to this big piece of mahogany here. Before we move on to the electronics, let's just talk about this. Now, I think these bridges are really terrible, and they should not exist on this earth. Not being able to set the intonation and the height on each string independently is just a pain in the bum when you're trying to intonate this thing and set it up. And for a bass that is already awkward to play, setup I think is very important for it. So having something like this, just again, its core design just adds another barrier to its playability. Now let's move on to the electronics, because this is where this bass gets interesting and weird. You'll see on the back that we have a 9-volt battery because this bass is active. Now you can get some active Thunderbirds like the Epiphone Pro range, but traditionally, of course, Thunderbirds are passive, so interesting choice for them to go this route. Now I don't normally like active electronics on affordable basis just because it sucks up that bit of money and resource that could have gone into other elements of the bass. The weirdness comes in the fact that you've got these two Roswell mini humbuckers and no pickup control. You'd think it would be volume, tone, but it's not. We have got a master volume, bass, treble, and then the volume pot also is a push-pull for series and parallel. Essentially, series mode gives you a bit more of a passive sound, but you still get control of the 2-band EQ. Essentially where you're getting like one sound out of the pickups. When you put it into parallel, it's like both pickups working together. That's how I kind of think about it. Full range of both, and it gives you this more kind of scooped sound and a bit more modern. And again, you get full control of the 2-band EQ when you're in this mode. So let's have a listen to how this bass sounds in both of those modes now. We're going to be going through the Line 6 HX Stomp with the Gallien-Kruger head, the Ampeg SVT 8x10 cab synth. So I think this bass sounds okay. In fact, no, that's being harsh. It sounds good in some contexts. I think when you're playing down here in the fretboard, you can get some really nice meaty tones that are very unique that you don't really get on other basses. It's like you almost start losing a bit of that sound as you move up the fretboard, and this bass is set up fine, really. Bass and treble control, you can tell, are more affordable. I actually had to dial this bass back loads to stop it from really peaking and overloading the signal because, yeah, it's quite hot, so that's not great. Also, what's not great is that it's fully active all the time, so when you take the battery out, the bass doesn't work, which means you really have to rely on the life of your battery when playing this bass. I've actually played this bass live, and I hated it. I hated it so much. I did not have a fun time. With Thunderbirds, there might just be like a get good, nature to it. For some people, this will be a great sound that they love. For me, the positives of the sound does not outweigh the drawbacks of this bass when it comes to playability. I think the biggest crime is that it's just not fun to play. Fine, if you like a Thunderbird and you're used to it, this is a great backup or something, but yeah. A feature I actually quite like, though, is the way that you put the battery in. You don't have to connect it and put it in and slot it in cavity. It just opens up, fits really nicely, and you just stick it in and then it works. Value for money wise, build construction, it's good. It's built well to what it is, and it does inherit some of those issues that come with a classic Thunderbird. So it's almost like 50% of the problems with this bass are the bass's fault and 50% are just what it's based on, so it can't really get away from that. So there we have it. Let me know what you think about this bass in the comments down below. Do you like the sound? Do you like the way it looks? Just doesn't work for me, so yeah, I can't recommend it really based on that. Once again, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.